Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right into it. All right, folks, happy 4th of July. I wasn't sure if I was going to want to do a video today, but I'm going to do one, and I think it'll be very interesting and fun. And let's see what we're going to cover. And this is actually Josh Pate came out with a video talking about how good are the Vols. And we're going to talk about that. Now, in recruiting, we missed out on Ronan O'Connell just a few minutes ago. I was actually watching Talking Vols. Boogie Bentley was up there doing a one-man show, and everything came out that he was going to commit to Clemson. Steve Wiltfong and a bunch of other guys started putting crystal balls out right beforehand that obviously he'd already told people that he was committing to Clemson. So he's a 3-star in-state offensive lineman. He was going to basically be a guard. Now, the only reason it stings is because he's in-state. Honestly, we don't necessarily need another guard. What we really need are tackle bodies. That's where we could really use some strengthening of our offensive line. But, you know, he's in state, so that does bother me. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't think technically it's that big a deal. But on that, let's take a look at what we've got tomorrow. Daniel Calhoun, who is an offensive lineman that we'd really like to have, he's leaning towards Georgia. And I've been hearing it's not looking so good for Tennessee on him. There for a while, it looked like it was, but not so much. Then on July 6th, we got Elijah Rushing, who is a big-time defensive lineman, who would be a big-time gets. Some people have him as high as a 5-star. You know, we'll see what happens there. It's really between us and Oregon. He's out of Arizona. And then on the 7th, we've got William Satterwhite. I think I called him Satterfield the other day, Satterwhite. He is a tackle body, and he's somebody we'd really like to have. He's a 4-star offensive lineman. And again, it's between us and Clemson again. Clemson seems to be somebody we're always battling for offensive linemen and different players, which is why it was a lot better when Clemson was down and South Carolina was down. See, we pull a lot of our recruits, not only from the South Carolina area, which we just got a great wide receiver from there. They're number 2 recruit in the state of South Carolina. But also, we pull from all over the country, and so does Clemson. So it would be better if they were down, but unfortunately, they've been up for a long time, and they play in a very easy conference. So we'll see what happens there. Now, look, they may not be in the ACC forever. They've got a real problem over there for money. They're not going to have the money that the SEC clubs have got, and at some point that's going to catch up with them. And something's going to have to give on the ACC deal. They're locked in for like $240 million for the entire conference through 2036, and we're over $800 million, and we're going to be renegotiating our contract in about 5 or 6 years. And if we go to 9 games, it's going to go up. Also, it's going to go up again way before their ACC contract expires. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Clemson's really kind of behind the 8 ball when it comes to money, and it's going to catch up to them. But Josh Pate came out, and he was talking about the Vols, and I wanted to react to a bunch of things he said. Some of what he said made a lot of sense, and we're going to get into that, and I'm going to also probably disagree with him about a few things. But let's see what Josh Pate has to say about the Vols in this coming year.
Say to our east on the University of Tennessee. This is like a preview magazine page. What do you need to know about Tennessee? First question, naturally, is what is the University of Tennessee at quarterback? I just mean as a program. Is this really the kind of program that has found themselves in the sweet spot such that pretty much any quarterback is going to thrive here? Like Lincoln Riley in his career, seems like everyone turns into a Heisman Trophy contender. Is that Josh Heupel? Is Josh Heupel going to be that kind of head coach and that kind of play caller to where Hendon Hooker walks out the door and it's, oh no, look at all that production. And all we have left is Joe Milton, and then Joe Milton just shreds someone in a bowl game, and it turns out it's just a precursor to the next year, and then Nico Iamaleava's behind him. Is it just going to be like a factory? Like a conveyor belt of Heisman caliber quarterbacks? If it is, we'll start to learn about that this year. Because all the preview magazines and all the talk is going to be, I don't know how they're going to make up for that lost production at quarterback.
It pretty much is going to be a factory. Now, this one issue here of Joe Milton, we don't know what he's going to do this year. I think he's probably going to have a really solid year. I do not expect him to put up Hendon Hooker numbers. Hendon was a magician back there when it comes to running the ball, and that's one thing that I'm not seeing that out of Joe. Now, Joe's got the great arm and all of that, and I think he's about fixed his accuracy issues. He looked really good in the Clemson game. He looked very accurate in the spring game. And the one game that he played where he wasn't as accurate, which was the Vanderbilt game, it was pouring down rain in a 20-mile-an-hour monsoon. Vanderbilt didn't even try to throw the ball. So that was one where he was like 50% and 1 touchdown, et cetera. But in the Clemson game, when the weather wasn't an issue, he threw for 67%, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 250 yards, and we beat him without too much trouble. So if we see that type of Joe Milton all year, we should have a really solid year. Now, behind him, you've got obviously Nico. And behind him right now this year, you got Gaston Moore, who looked sensational in the spring game, and he really looked sharp. You know, he knows this system like the back of his hand. He's been with Josh since his UCF days. So we're fine at quarterback as far as backups are concerned. It's really just how Joe plays this year. And I think in this offense, he's going to be strong. So we'll see how that plays out. But long-term, we're fine. We've got Jake Merklinger coming in right behind him, who's a super high 4-star. I've shown you the highlights of him. That guy's excellent. He is a very strong quarterback. And then we're probably either going to get George McIntyre or Deuce Knight. George McIntyre is a very high 5-star coming out of Middle Tennessee, and he'll probably sign with the Vols. If not, Deuce Knight is ready to go. Okay, he is Hendon Hooker 2.0. He's a left-handed version of him. He's got a really nice arm. He runs a 4.5 40. He will burn you, just like Hendon did. He will burn your bridge down, okay? So even if we don't get George McIntyre, Deuce Knight really wants to come here because he saw what Hendon did. You know, he's no fool. He saw, oh my gosh, I could just kill it in that offense. And Josh Heupel is well known for what he does with quarterbacks. It's been fantastic everywhere he's been. Everybody knows it. All the quarterbacks know it. And that's why he's not having any trouble getting quarterbacks. Now, Florida, on the other hand, I was going to leave Florida alone today, but I had to bring up quarterbacks. They can't even get a quarterback. And that's because their coach is not known for developing quarterbacks. It's 2023, folks. If you don't develop quarterbacks and take them to the next level, you're not going to get quarterbacks. So it's just the way it is. How come Florida can't get a quarterback and Lane Kiffin has 4? He's got 4 that could play at Florida. And we're not having any trouble either. So it boils down to there's a handful of guys that are going to get the best quarterbacks. And Josh Heupel's one of them. Unfortunately, Lane's one of them. You got the knucklehead out west who ran from the SEC, Brave Sir Lincoln.
Brave Sir Robin ran away. No! Bravely ran away. I didn't!
And then Ryan Day. And those are your top 4. And that comes from Coach Hayes, who is very connected to all the young quarterbacks in high school, the parents, all that. You know, he's the one that, you know, he labeled those 4 guys. It's the truth. You can just see it. It's obvious. So I feel great at quarterback long term. Next 10 years couldn't look better. They just couldn't. Let's see what else Josh Pate has to say.
And this is one that cost them last year, big time. Are they going to improve in the back end of their defense? This is one of those that, unlike the other 2 questions I just asked, where if quarterback goes right, it could go really right. And if offensive line goes right, it could go really right. I don't know how right their pass defense could go this year. They don't look like, even at their best, they have a very high ceiling in their secondary. And last year, their secondary was 127th in the country in pass yards per game allowed. They were 76th in explosive plays per game allowed. And it cost them in nights like when they played South Carolina. That's how you open yourself up to just this inexplicable result, like South Carolina going from scoring 0 offensive points against Florida the week before to hanging 60-plus on you. How? You can't stop them. You can't defend a forward pass. And if you're not clicking, if you're not scoring every possession, all of a sudden, even average offenses can pull away from you. So we got to do better there. Got to do a lot better there. What is the best position group on this team? I think you could say quarterback.
Now, this is pretty interesting. If you look at the defense, first of all, points allowed, 22.8. We were at 90th the year before. Here's where we're getting killed. Passing yards, 127th. There's barely more than 127 teams in the country. That's where we're getting killed. Look at our rushing yards per game, 21st. We were like 90th the year before. That's where we've had tons of improvement, and I think we can thank Rodney Garner for that. But the passing defense is killing us, and that's got to get better. And when you see 3 quarterbacks throwing for over 400 yards, and yet we won 2 out of 3 of those games, it's kind of shocking. We can thank Hendon and the offense for that, and the wide receivers and everybody else. But we will be better on defense because, first of all, our defensive line is going to continue to be really good. Our secondary will improve. We've got the #1 rated safety based on Pro Football Focus. They've got him as the highest rated safety in the SEC, And I think he's going to help a lot. He started playing a lot more towards the end of the year. He played in the Vanderbilt game, played in the Clemson game, had an interception. So that's one player that's going to help us. Also, we brought in Gabe Judy Lawley, who was a starter at BYU, has a ton of experience. That's another guy that's going to help us. And then, of course, we brought in 3 big-time cornerbacks, and we also brought in safety help as well. But those cornerbacks we've got 2 of them that are really strong 4-stars, and I think we're going to see both of them from time to time in this first year. So we're going to have the depth that we need back there. Look, we were just putting it together with duct tape the last 2 years. We just haven't had the depth. Now we've got depth, and we're starting to get experience, and I think we'll improve. Are we going to be Georgia back there? Absolutely not. But we're not going to be Tennessee anymore back there either. We're going to improve there, and we'll probably wind up 50th or 60th in the country back there instead of 127th, which, granted, that's still not great, but that'll be good enough with our offense, the way we score, to help a lot. And I think the defensive line is going to put more pressure on the quarterback as well, because we're very strong on the defensive line. You're not going to be able to run on us like what happened in 2021. You're just not. You tried to run on us in 2022. That didn't work. That's why everybody switched to passing against us, because they could not run against us. Well, that same defensive line is going to put more pressure and pin their ears back, and we've got the hosses. We've brought in some really strong recruits that are going to pressure that are going to put pressure on that quarterback. So, I think we're definitely going to see improvement in that secondary, and that's going to help us all the way across the board.
Like with a number of teams, we're going to skip past quarterback. Wide receiver is probably the best other position group on this team, and that's with Hyatt and Tillman both gone. Squirrel White is a guy that could very much emerge on the national scene this year, and let's be real, the country has waited a long time for an elite player named Squirrel. And we finally got...
I have waited a long time for an elite player by the name of Squirrel. Absolutely. This guy is going to blow up this year. I'm so pleased with how he played last year. He caught almost 500 yards worth of balls as a true freshman, and that was with Hyatt and Tillman and Brew McCoy and all those guys. And you saw how he played in the Clemson game, so everybody's excited about him. Plus, we got plenty more in the wide receiver group.
In Knoxville, no less. We finally got him. But they got Brew McCoy up there. They got Dante Thornton. It was an under-the-radar transfer from Oregon. I thought should have been rated a little higher. He's in Tennessee now. Ramel Keaton, 5th-year guy. He's there. So they got a really good, solid stable at the receiver position. But if Squirrel White's not the breakout player on this team, and he very well could be, who will be the breakout player? You know where I'm going? I'm going a true freshman linebacker, Aryan Carter, from just down the road in Smyrna, Tennessee.
Yeah, now he's going to talk about Aryan Carter. This guy's going to be special. I'm telling you, there's something about having a running back who's also a linebacker. We saw that with Banks, even though, look, the difference between Aryan Carter and Banks when it comes to attitude is dramatic. If you've listened to Aryan Carter talk and speak, he is a good dude, okay? Okay. But he is a beast on the field. Banks was a beast on the field, but unfortunately, he had problems that affected him on the field and affected our team. It's one of the reasons why we lost the South Carolina game. He got into an altercation with our starting quarterback, Hendon Hooker, who couldn't be a nicer guy. And because Banks just, he just got a bad attitude, unfortunately. It helped him on the field because I'm telling you, Banks ran a 4.5 40 at 230 pounds, and he would put a lick on you. I don't know that I've ever seen too many linebackers hit as hard as Banks did. And I think he'll make it in the pros, and I hope that he does. But his attitude cost him. He didn't even get drafted. 230 pounds, runs a 4.5 40 and didn't get drafted. What does that tell you? Attitude matters.
He's busy getting ready to start probably at linebacker. He was a 4-star in this past recruiting cycle. They went head-to-head against Alabama for him, and they ended up winning his services. I think because of their depth situation on defense, he will be an immediate starter. I think he's got instant impact type potential, 6'1", 220. I'm not sure what weight they want him to play at, but this is 2023. Like, guys play at linebacker weighing less than that all the time, even in this conference. So Aryan Carter, just going to take a flyer on him. Really good player, wanted by the best. So he's there now. As for the schedule, the Tennessee schedule, they play Georgia every year. They play Bama every year, or at least they have. Who knows what the schedule will look like in the future. Tennessee plays 3 of the top 15 odds teams in the country. They open, for the record, just across the river, just across the country.
Speaking of the record, I'm not concerned about Virginia. They're not very good, and we're playing in Nashville, which is basically a home game, so I feel great about that one. Austin Peay, that is what it is. At Florida is the big game. This is the one that's going to set the tone for the season. We're going to the Swamp at 7 o'clock. They are going to be on fire down there to play us, believe me. And that's going to be a huge game for us. If Joe plays well there and we win that game, this is going to be a darn good season. If not, we'll probably struggle a little bit, and we'll probably be looking at more 8 or 9 wins instead of 10 or 11. But for Florida, this is basically their Super Bowl, because Florida's going to probably win about 6 games regardless, and this might be one, but it's their Super Bowl. So I hope they're excited to be seeing the Vols come down there, and that's the way I want it. I want from now on, when Florida plays us, I want that to be their Super Bowl, and then they can, live on or off that game the rest of the year, because it is what it is. They're coming off man, I said I was going to take it easy on Florida today. But Florida, don't worry. In a couple of years, if Billy Napier doesn't work out, and he might work out. Not saying he won't. But if he doesn't, Lane Kiffin's waiting in the wings. And if you get Lane Kiffin, you're going to be good again very quickly, and you're going to become a very daunting task. And it's going to be the same as having Steve Spurrier again, and we got Josh Heupel, and it's going to be something else. Lane Kiffin at Florida would be like Darth Vader with the Empire.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
I'm just telling you, it could happen. We need a good villain again, and man, he'd be the perfect one. He already is anyway, but you put him in Florida. But anyway, then we've got UTSA. That's not an easy win, but it's at home. They were a top 25 team and will be this year. Then we got South Carolina, the big revenge game. I think we're going to win that game, and I think we're going to win it epic style by a week. Then we got Texas A&M. That's a team that's very talented, and we'll see what happens. They got the new offensive coordinator. Will Jimbo let Bobby Petrino actually coach the offense? We'll see. If he does, they'll be tough. Then we got to go to Tuscaloosa. Whew, man, that's going to be tough. Tuscaloosa. And then, of course, at Kentucky. This is going to be a tough stretch right here. A&M, at Alabama, at Kentucky. That'll be tough. Then we got UConn, no problem. At Missouri, it's at Missouri. They'll try to give us a good game. And then we've got the game. This is the upset alert. I'm calling on us to beat Georgia at Neyland. Somebody's got to beat this team. It's just the way it is. And who better than us? And then we got old Vandy, and that'll be easy. Let's see what else he's got to say.
River, we can see the stadium. It's clear as day outside our window. They open in Nashville against Virginia. And they got a trip to Florida in week 3. That's when they open conference play. They got A&M at Alabama back-to-back. And that concerns me, obviously, because, those are 2 of the toughest games they play. But this is a landmine spot on anyone's schedule. When you play back-to-back road games, it's always tough. So in this particular season, Tennessee has a 3-week stretch. They play Texas A&M at home. They go to Alabama, and then they go to Kentucky the next week. Kentucky is off a bye. So while you're getting beat up against A&M and Bama, and you're going to Lexington a week after you went to Tuscaloosa, Kentucky's just been chilling. It's not the most favorable of late-season schedule dynamics there. Tennessee could be a really good team again this year, and I've picked up on some doubt. I've picked up, as is usually the case, when you all of a sudden flash on the national radar, I've picked up on some doubters. We're going to have media days in Nashville in a couple of weeks, and I'm sure that'll be the talking point. How serious should we take Tennessee?
All right, folks, I just wanted to cover that on the 4th of July, do a little quick video, and I hope y'all have a great evening and have a lot of fun and shoot some fireworks and all that good stuff. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols and all that good stuff. If you've not subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Just hit that little button. I would appreciate it. And right over here is my most recent video. And YouTube thinks you'll love it. And sorry I had to get on you Florida fans. It's just, I can't help it. Anyway, I hope you did enjoy the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.